Show is brought to you by EquestrianCollections.com, featuring the latest collections of top equestrian brands like Asmar, Keritz, Iridian, Ovation, and Equine Couture. Shop at EquestrianCollections.com and you and your horse will always ride in style. Hello and welcome to The Horse Show. I'm Chris Stafford, and my guest today is considered to be a rising star in the sport of eventing in the US. Savannah Fulton has been training with Buck Davidson for a number of years now, and she has made her breakthrough into four-star competition when she competed at the Rolex Kentucky 3-day event this spring. At the age of just 21, Savannah has established a great team of horses, and like many young riders, she has ambitions to go all the way to the top and hopefully join the US team one day. I caught up with her recently to hear more about her career. Savannah, hi and welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So I wanted to give a little bit of background to start off with, Savannah, about how you got into the sport, because some would say you really had it handed to you with your family being in the business.
For sure.
You and your sister Grace competed together and have been brought up with horses. You've never known anything different. But how much does that influence how you ride and your ambitions today?
I think it affects me in every way. I was really lucky. Grace and I were both really lucky. My parents own a farm, Full Moon Farm in Maryland, and they bought it the year before I was born. And so, from day one, I was sort of, on a pony. But my parents were also very good about, they always encouraged us to do other things. I never took their advice. I don't know if that's good or bad, but they were always like, oh, do you want to play soccer? Or do you want to, learn another language? Or, they were always sort of pushing us to do other things. And that wasn't for me. But I think there was a very good balance there of, I never felt like I had to ride. Riding was a privilege. And, we had to keep our grades up in school. Otherwise, we got in trouble. But riding was a privilege, and it was something we wanted to do. And it was so much fun. I mean, both my mom and my dad ride, and my sister rides. So, we go ride together. And it was a huge part of us as a family. I rode with my mom until I was 16, and I came to Buck. So obviously she's played a huge part in my riding and my life.
Well, you say that, it was a privilege, but was there in any way any sort of sibling rivalry or any drive to be competitive, to keep up with the family?
Honestly, no. Grace and I we're 3 years apart, and I don't know if it's the age difference or what, but it was just extremely supportive of each other. And luckily we were both, we both had some good years and some bad years, and we've just been there for each other the whole way. I mean, Grace is my best friend, and she's a huge part of any success I've ever had. And I like to think that I'm also part of her success, but she's always right there for me.
Did you feel there was any pressure or expectation, though, Savannah? I mean, I know you said it was a privilege again and how much you enjoyed it, and you were able to do it as a family, participate in this. But did you feel now, when you look back at it, there was expectation on you? There was a little bit of pressure on you as a daughter to carry on in the family business even? Maybe,
but at the same time, riding is an expensive sport, and I think my parents are very, very glad that Grace and I both ride. But and I'm glad, because it would have sort of screwed up our family dynamic if Mom had to take one of us to soccer on Saturdays when the other one was going to a show. But no, and growing up, my mom was always like, oh, no one's going above prelim, because above that's just too dangerous. And I was like, well, what happens when we get to prelim, Mom? And she said, we'll deal with that when we get there. And then, of course, that day came, and she was very brave and coached me through that. But no, it's just been fun. And I did a lot of equitation and hunters and a little bit of show jumping when I was younger. And we just did everything with the ponies. We did show jumping, we did some fox hunting, we did equitation, we did some polo cross. I mean, we had fun with it, and I really liked the show jumping, and then I got a horse that wasn't a very good show jumper at all, and that's when I fell in love with cross country. You have based yourself with Buck. He was your
childhood hero, really, wasn't he? I mean, even when you were at school. So this is a dream come true to actually have the opportunity to train with him. And he's given you more than a leg up, really, in the sport, and given you the horses and the experience that you need to go it alone. And I want to talk a little bit about the going it alone, which so many riders aspire to eventually, Savannah. But let's just join up the dots as to when you decided that you were going to leave high school, you were going to graduate, you weren't going to go to college, it was going to be about eventing. How was that received, given that your parents did encourage you to do other things when you were at school?
Yes, and both my parents are very well educated, and growing up, it was always one of those things, like when they tucked us in at night, my mom would be like, you know you're going to college, right? Yes, Mom. She'd say, okay, good night, love you. And my dad would come in and be like, you promise you're going to be a good teenager, right? And be like, yes, Dad, love you, bye. And that was like every single night our entire lives. And so college was very much expected of me. And, I sort of talked to my parents. I did public school up until 10th grade. And then I finally was able to talk them into letting me do online school, which was a huge help. The school I went to was quite far away. And so it was just, honestly, to me, it felt like I was wasting time. The 2 hours I spent on the bus every day, I was like, I could ride 4 horses in that time. So I finally talked them into letting me do online school, and I graduated early and, always knew that I wanted to go work for Buck, but just sort of the timing had to be perfect. And I had a horse that I wanted to take to the 2-start Young Riders. So I sort of was like, okay, how about I go to Florida with Buck and I spend the 6 months there and I get qualified and then, I'll come back, I'll do Young Riders in the summer, and then I'll go to University of Maryland. And that's sort of how the working student thing started with Buck. He came for a clinic and, we talked and he was like, yeah, sure, totally, come on down. And then one thing led to another, and that didn't go as planned. My horse got hurt. And he was like, okay, well, you're staying, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I have to go home. Like, I had sort of left in a hurry. You know what I mean? It was like the day after he came for the clinic, it was like, all right, you're coming next week. And so I had a lot of loose ends sort of to tie up. And I called my parents, and they came up to Regalsville so we could have a little family meeting, and they were incredibly supportive. I'm not sure they were 100%, but they were like, okay, this is what you really want, and we love Buck, and I guess this is what you want. And I'm also lucky that at that time I was quite young, so if I went a year or two and decided that all of a sudden I hated it, I could go back to school.
What do you feel about education now, and if you had to relive those years again, do you think college education is important to a rider? Because as I want to talk about later, Savannah, about going into your own business and needing other tools in your toolbox apart from being a good rider and trainer.
For sure. I mean, I think college is so important, and when most people ask me what advice do they have for their young son or daughter, I definitely always say go to college, because you never know what can happen. And in this sport and this life, you have to be so driven, so hardworking. You have to have the horses, you have to have the support, but you also have to be so lucky. And it's not very often that those stars all align. So I think having a backup is a great idea. Having said that, I wouldn't change it for the world. And I'm also very lucky in that, my parents run a successful business, and I'm here with Buck and Bruce. And Buck teaches me a lot more than just about the riding. He's great. He's a great businessman, and it's been an incredible experience to be behind the scenes and see sort of how he runs things.
Well, you mentioned there, of course, inevitably with horses, to be successful, no matter what you do, you have to be hardworking, and you have to have that drive and ambition and total commitment to the sport. And you clearly have that, Savannah. But how does it play out during the course of the day? And why do you think you have had the opportunities specifically? Is it because you've put the hard yards into it, combined with your talent, or just being at the right place at the right time?
I think probably a little bit of both. Buck's great in that he gives you exactly what you give him. So if people come here that maybe aren't, not the best rider, but if they bust their butt and they work really hard and they show him that they want to be a part of the team, he gives them opportunities. Certainly way more than people that come in that are very talented, but, are resting on their laurels, like, oh, I won whatever event. Give me some horses to ride. That's definitely not how things work here, and I appreciate that. And I've been here. This is my sixth summer with him. So in December I've been here 6 years, and that's a lot of time put in. And whenever whenever people come in, they're like, oh wow, like it's so cool, you get to ride all these horses and everything. It's like, yes, it totally is cool. It's amazing, and I love my job. But I've put in more time than anyone else, and that's sort of, I think, why I am where I am. I think like what people think 1 year working student position, like you can't learn. I mean, you can learn a lot of things in 1 year, but it has to be way longer than 1 year. Like I feel like I'm just now being useful, being useful to Buck, if that makes sense.
So share with us then what a day in the life is like for you, not in competition, but at home.
We start the barn at 7 o'clock, and we bring out, muck the stalls, hay, water, all that fun stuff, and then Buck usually gets here around 8:15, and tells us who the first horse he's going to ride is. We tack that up. He makes a book. We have a drawing book with all the horses in it, and he sort of says, okay, this one's going to flat, and you're going to ride it. This one's jumping, I'm going to ride it. This one's trotting. And we sort of make a plan for getting them all ridden, and then we start riding. And the goal is always to be done riding by 3 o'clock. That's the goal. Certainly there's crazy jump days where that definitely doesn't happen. And then we start the barn again, and hay, water, turn out, clean the stalls, and then we wrap that up, and that's pretty much our day.
Well, some horse show announcers now are referring to you as the rising star in the sport, Savannah. You've ridden at your first 4-star at the Rolex Kentucky 3-day event this spring. What do you see as your talents and what you're bringing to the sport? And I also want to know if that being labelled the rising star puts any pressure on you. Do you listen to that at all?
Honestly, no. I think being in this business and in this life, you sort of have to have a level head, and I think that's, hopefully other people would agree, that's sort of one of my biggest things I can bring to the table, is that I don't get too happy or too sad about a lot of things. It's great one day you're riding at Kentucky, and then anything can happen, and I just try and keep that in the back of my mind and try and be so excited that I rode at Kentucky, but then also it's a sport in a world where it's like, what have you done for me lately? You have to stay relevant, and you have to keep pushing to be the best, because the second you get complacent is the second you're not good enough.
Are you a nervous type, or how do you compose yourself before those events? Because obviously the more you go up the ladder and the bigger arena, literally, and audience, more eyes on you now, Savannah. I mean, growing up in the sport was obviously a good foundation, but once you get in the limelight yourself, how do you handle that? Are you composed? Do the nerves affect you?
I definitely get nervous, for sure. I think anyone who's saying they don't get nervous is probably lying a little bit. I do get nervous, but also I think the nerves help me. It gets me excited and gets me sort of wanting to really do well. And, I was very lucky that before Kentucky, I got to ride at the Wellington Showcase and also Great Meadows. And both of those have a little bit more atmosphere, and definitely more of a pressure feeling situation than your typical like rocking horse or any of the sort of local events we do, because it is sort of hard with Kentucky. I mean, the bigger events are definitely our spectators, but nothing like Kentucky. And so it's a little bit hard to go from like 10 people standing around the water jump to, I don't know, 10,000 people standing around the water jump. And that definitely, those two, being able to get sort of in the ring, the bigger rings more often, I think that was a great idea Buck had. Like, okay, we have to try and get you to those places so that when you do go to Kentucky, it's not your first time seeing people in the stands.
That's a good idea, and I'm sure it prepared you. But the experiences that you've had now and the opportunities that you had, typically at this stage in a young rider's career, they've been given a leg up, so to speak, and you've had that leg up in so many ways. You now have a 4-star horse, and so many want to go and fly solo. They want to go run their own business now. They feel they've got all the tools in their toolbox, and they're able to do that and make a name for themselves. But obviously build their own family of owners and sponsors and so on, and put their own name out there on the shingles. But that's not you, Savannah. Tell us why not.
No. I think it's way too young. And I think you're right. I think so many people sort of in my position, if you will, want to go out on their own. And that's, I mean, maybe that's their personality, that's their personal preference, but not me. Like I said, I feel like I'm just finally starting to get a handle on the sport and, how it sort of works and where I want to go and what I want to do. And I think having the backing and the support of a rider like Buck and his barn, and the support of his team and, well, our team, it's huge. And I can't imagine why anyone would want to go at it alone. You know what I mean? Like, I am very lucky in that I've had 5 years experience here at Bucks, but I am still 21, and in the grand scheme of things, that's still quite young in terms of running your own business, yet alone an expensive business with live animals, and where you need the support of so many people. And that's the great thing about eventing, is that it is such a team sport, and just being able to sort of tag along with Buck's support and his team is it's huge. It's the main reason why I am who I am, and it's great. If you have a potential owner, it's like a comfort blanket saying, "Oh, well, it's at Buck Davidson's farm." Like, it's a professional facility where there's the best people and the best vets and the best farriers. And sure, I might be taking your horse to get a novice, but know that it's in a program that produces 4-star horses all the time. And that's been huge for me. So I have no intentions of going on my own anytime soon.
Are there any downsides to that being associated with a rider who has an established reputation when you're trying to build your own family of owners and so on? I mean, I know you have some and you've been successful in raising money. I'm just wondering, just to see the other side of that picture, Savannah, if there are any downsides at all.
I think maybe the only downside I can think of is that, it's going to Kentucky is something that we're lucky enough to do every year, but it's not like a huge deal because you just go to Kentucky. We've got 4-star horses in the barn, we've got 3-star horses in the barn, and it's easy to be like, oh, well, it's just another event. On the other side of that, I think that was one of the reasons why I was able to stay so, not panicked about Kentucky, because it's just Kentucky. We're just getting ready for another horse show. And that mindset, sort of keeps you from getting all panicked about it. But other than that, no, I think it's great. And, the owners that I do have now, Buck has gotten them for me, or he's helped me talk to them, or, he's played a huge part in every part of my career so far. I think that's why, I have owners, because I'm at Buck Davidson's, otherwise I'm just another 21-year-old kid who did one cool event and now thinks I'm good enough to go out on my own, which I'm not at all.
Do you think you might be one day, or do you have aspirations to go back to the family business and take that over at some point?
I'm not sure. Still sort of, in the early stages. Like, I'm just trying to stay focused on, on getting better. And I at some point, certainly there needs to be some sort of separation, but definitely no time soon.
So what are Savannah Fulton's goals and ambitions then for the future?
Of course, everyone wants to ride on the team. Everyone wants to be great, but I really do. I want to definitely not to use the words of Donald Trump, but I want to make America great again. I think we have really good horses and really good people, and I want to see us winning again. And I hope to be a part of the teams that get us there.
So Captain Jack right now is your 4-star. Tell us who else you're riding and the family of owners that you have, because obviously you wouldn't be able to do this without the owners.
For sure. So I have Captain Jack, and he's owned by the Fulton Farm Syndicate, which is a great group of friends and family that really came together in an important time for me when I was like, all right, I really need this horse, guys. They're like, okay, well, we'll make that happen. And then I have Brave New World, who's a 9-year-old Westphalian gelding, and he's owned by Sharon Will. And that's a perfect example. Sharon owned Absolute Liberty for Buck, who was the horse that he won Team Gold at Pan Am. And so she was awesome to let me ride this horse. And he's done 1 CCI 2-star, and just last weekend he was 9th at the CIC 2-star in Maryland. And hopefully he'll do Fair Hill this year. And then I also have a Stogatoon, who's a 9-year-old thoroughbred gelding. He's owned by Karen Curlin. And he, same thing as Brave New World, he's done 1 CCI 2-star, and then he completed the CIC at Maryland yesterday. And hopefully he will also go to Fair Hill as well. His owner is actually local to Maryland, so I'm really excited. I hope that event goes well for her because it's right in her backyard. And then I have a 6-year-old Irish mare that I actually bred, and so she's the only one that I actually own, and she just did her first training level. I'm very, very excited about her. She's for sale, but she's an adorable little redhead. And then I have a 5-year-old Midnight Illusion, who's owned by Nelson Moore now, and he's actually a homebred of Sharon White, and Nelson bought him for me this year in Florida. And he's done 2 beginner novices, and he did his first novice at Jersey. And that's my go-to squad right there.
Well, that's a fantastic team that you've got together, and I'm sure there are young girls listening and thinking, well, how did you manage to pull together all of these owners? Some through the opportunities that you've had with Buck, obviously, as you mentioned, but also that you've had to do some business there yourself in terms of inspiring people to support you, your family, your friends, obviously, that's one thing, but to extend your community to get the support that riders need and to get the owners to get behind you to buy the horses for the future and hopefully see you all the way to the team, Savannah.
For sure. And, it's a process, but I've learned a lot just by watching Buck and how he handles his owners and his horses. And he has, Carla and Cassie Siegel are, I think, his biggest supporters, and they're the nicest, most adorable couple in the entire world. And to see how much they love their horses has just been sort of a lesson in itself on what you want your partnership to be like with your horses and your owners. And so that's what I strive to have happen.
So finally, what do you most value then, Savannah, about being involved in sport and having a life with horses?
Probably that I'm so lucky to do it. It's a hard life, it's whatever, but, turn on CNN, and I'm so lucky every day to wake up and go ride horses for my job. Like it sounds ridiculous that this is what I get to do every day. It's my hobby, it's my passion, and I'm lucky enough to hopefully do it for real for a long time.
And of course, with the support of your family and friends and the community that you have, and not least of all, your sister Grace, she's there by your side grooming for you.
Yeah, she does a lot of things: emotional support, grooming. Grace is the best. It's just, I love about eventing the community that it brings together. The support crew that you have, the friends and family that are always with you. I think it's a very unique sport in how it brings people together.
Well, it certainly does that, and you really have got some great support behind you, Savannah. And as I said, you're being tagged as the rising star, so I think we're going to see a lot more from you in the future. So we want to wish you the very, very best of luck with your career, and thank you for taking the time to come on the program.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully I'll make everyone proud.
And our thanks again to Savannah and to our sponsors, Equestrian Collections. Be sure to visit them at equestriancollections.com. That's it for this episode. Be sure to check out all the other podcasts and blogs and articles and videos on our website at wispsports.com. And you can also follow us on social media at Wisp Sports. Until the next time, thank you for listening.